Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Scorned by My Sect. Hello Mr. Strickler, I hope this email finds you well. I would like to discuss this incident with you at your earliest convenience. I will offer some details in order for you to understand some of what I have endured over the past 2 years. In July 2012 I was involved in a serious automobile accident in which I sustained several injuries. The worst injury involved severe rupture of 3 lumbar discs. I had 2 surgeries to stabilize the injury, but the pain was unbearable. In February 2013 I contemplated taking my own life, but I was conflicted because of my devotion to life and deep commitment to my faith. The date was February 22nd, and I had a particularly frustrating day that included extensive pain and the inability to move around my home. That night I said to myself that I had finally had enough. I lay on my bed praying to my Savior not to forsake me and to give me strength to continue living. In the meantime, I thought about that full bottle of oxycodone on my nightstand. It would be so simple to end the suffering. As I prayed, I was abruptly surprised by radiating blue light that began to emanate from my bedroom window. As I watched it I felt peaceful and sedate. I was so relaxed that I must have fallen asleep. I remember opening my eyes while lying down in a bright room with several white lights shining down on me. On each side of me stood 2 distinct people. One of these people was a woman who wore a light blue coverall uniform. She had close-cut blonde hair and a beautiful face with very pale skin. Her eyes were deep orange in color and larger than human eyes. She smiled at me but never spoke. She was assisting the person on my right side, a rather tall ugly man who wore a yellow smock. He had no hair, and his face had several disgusting lesions that looked infected. He never looked at me, but continued to concentrate on something and would occasionally mumble to the woman on my left side. I could not see what he was doing to me. I could sense pressure on my side and back, though I never felt pain. Then the woman leaned over me and placed something dark over my face. That's the last thing I remembered. When I woke, I was sitting in my recliner in the living room. I looked at the wall clock which showed it to be 2:35. Since there was daylight, I must have been mid-afternoon. I sat there disoriented, vaguely remembering what had happened to me. How did I get into the living room? I looked for my cane, but it was nowhere around me. Why was I not feeling pain when I moved? I slowly lifted myself out of the recliner. There was no pain. I walked around the house, then climbed the stairs. No pain whatsoever. So what had happened to me? I will briefly describe what occurred afterwards, which includes much of what I wish to discuss with you. When I went to my next orthopedic appointment, the doctor thoroughly examined me. He then ordered that new X-rays be taken. I walked back into the examination room and sat down. The doctor soon walked in, sat in front of me with a scowling look, and said, "What did you do?" I told him what I had experienced. He got up from his chair and walked to the door, then said, "I want you out of my office. What happened to you is the result of association with Satan. I want you to leave immediately." I was so shocked that I began to cry. The receptionist walked over to me to see what was wrong. The doctor saw this, and he screamed, "Stay away from Satan's associate." I hurried out of the office and quickly drove home. The same day, I called my pastor at church. I briefly explained what had occurred and asked if he had any idea what happened to me. He then told me that it was obvious that I had allowed a demon into my life, and that it now possessed me. I asked if something could be done for me. He responded that a deliverance may be possible, but he was not capable of conducting it. He then said, "Until you resume the faith, God refuses you to enter this church." Again, I was absolutely stunned. Not long afterwards, I had an independent medical examination performed. I was told that my lumbar discs and general health were normal. I asked the physician to write a letter explaining that my physical condition was normal. I wanted to present it to my pastor. Since that time, the pastor has refused to see me and has had all my mail returned. This is the reason I would like to discuss the incident with you. I just want my life to be back to normal. Cindy.
The devil came to me. When I was 10 years old in the 4th grade, I had a horrible encounter of paranormal proportions. I was not on any meds of any kind or any drugs. I was a little kid, and at 3 a.m. the devil came to me. He woke me by levitating as a big black cat outside my window, and even though I was sound asleep, he made me aware of his presence. He appeared through my window into my bedroom. I was terrified. This big black cat was laying on top of my chest, staring into my eyes, and even though I had them closed tight, he made me see his eyes right through my eyelids. I could not talk or scream. My older brother was sleeping in his bed in the same room, was sleeping and not aware of what was happening to me. The devil hurts you psychologically. He makes you see and hear things. He made bodies of the dead float around my room. I saw pain and misery, and when I saw him, the devil, in his own form, he was dancing on the stove in our kitchen, with the fire on the stove on high. My bedroom was right next to the kitchen. I was shown all this horrible stuff, and at that very minute, before I saw the devil on the stove, I was able to scream, "God help me." My brother heard me, flicked the lights on, and everything disappeared. When I ran out into the kitchen, the devil was laughing on the stove, then vanished. I told my parents everything. We were Roman Catholic. We had our house exorcised and blessed by the church and our own family priest. I talked to my family priest to please ask God to heal my mind, and to heal me from those horrific aberrations that transpired in my bedroom when I was 10. After a few months, I was able to sleep back in my own bed. I slept with my parents for months, as I was scared that it would happen to me again, but it never did. Thank you, Lord, I know you are there. I have seen the other one, the mean nasty red one with horns. He is evil and pissed off. Other than my immediate family, I only told my best friend from the 4th grade and my priest. He asked me 30 years later, remember the cat in your room? I sure the heck do. The most important thing I learned from having that experience was, the devil wants people to think he is not real. Let me tell you, he is real and really terrifying. I grew up in a little town called South Plainfield, New Jersey. James.
I was married to a shape-shifting demon. For 8 years it was my misfortune to be married to a woman who I discovered, not long after our marriage, to be a shape-shifting negative entity in human form. I actually saw her shape-shift on several occasions. From our union sprang 3 daughters, 2 of whom are of like nature to their mother. During the years of our marriage, my then-wife engaged in satanic rituals and similar practices, for the purpose of invoking and evoking negative entities of her own kind. A side effect of these practices was that she drew into manifestation many entities who were eventually able to appear whenever they wished to, without having to be drawn by her rituals. For me, this nightmare didn't end until we divorced in 1985. Unable to get rid of the unwanted visitors, I frequently spoke to them in order to determine who they were and what they wanted. These entities were cold, ruthless, and without any compassion. Without exception, they all loathed and despised humans, and often spoke of a long-term agenda for taking over the planet for themselves. I found this self-declared agenda highly disturbing and worrying, but was not sure if they were telling the truth or simply winding me up out of malice. They often spoke of places such as Draco and Orion, and on several occasions I suffered encounters with an entity whom they referred to as their leader. He was without doubt the most terrible entity with whom I have ever had contact, and he declared on one occasion that he is the one whom religious people would call Satan, the devil. Amongst many other things, the entities told me that they were not the only alien life forms on this planet, many of whom, they declared, have incarnated in human form throughout the millennia, in order to carry out their long-term goal. I was told that various other aliens have incarnated here, but for other purposes. Although full of hatred, contempt and loathing for human beings, the negative entities were surprisingly civil to me. When I once asked why this was so, I was told much to my surprise that it was because I am not human. Your body is human, but your soul is not, I was told by a number of the entities. They told me that I was not one of their kind, and had nothing in common with them, but was as alien on this planet as they themselves are. I eventually discovered this to be entirely true when I once discovered my spiritual origin. Many of the experiences I have had, and many things which I was told by the alien entities, make perfect sense, and are now comprehensible to me.
Devil's bloody hoof prints. When I was 17, it was a really hard time as I and my family members all had different awful experiences clustered at once, and I cried myself to sleep one night. I woke up in the dark to see the silhouette of my mum sitting on the end of my bed in the pitch black. I've obviously flipped out. Was she playing and turned the lamp on? She was visibly upset and shaking and said, "I thought you were dead, not I dreamt or anything." And I was freaked out, told her I was fine and sent her back to bed. The next morning when I woke up and went to the bathroom, there was what can only be described as bloody hoof prints. We have no pets, they weren't footprints, and no one was on their period in my house. It couldn't have been a stray animal because there was no way of it getting in, and I checked CCTV. We only have exterior though, and nothing. They were literal cloven hoofprints, and they started on my bathroom tile facing the mirror. They then go out of the bathroom onto the hall carpet, and there's only 2 other doors on that floor on the same left side. The bloody prints go directly towards the far door, my bedroom, like it knew I was there. The prints stop facing my door. My floor is laminate and there was no blood of any print whatsoever within my room. I can only say that whatever negative energy I was putting out that night was like an antenna, and something thought it would be able to feast on me. But clearly God or Jesus Christ or my angels protected me, and for that it genuinely brings tears to my eyes. I'm a Christian Catholic, but the truth of their corruption is so profound it's only by the devil's work that true exposure has been quelled thus far. My mum, however, is an atheist, but strange how her maternal instincts kicked in, because she sensed a danger like never before to her only child. I had at least 2 other experiences with things that weren't from this plane or frequency. These ones I actually saw. Rita.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, it would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.